All right, everyone, now we got to talk about Brett Kavanaugh. Now, of course, it's basically salt and tears at this point. It's like, who gives a fuck? What are you going to do about it? Because Kavanaugh's already in SCOTUS. But the Democrats now are making the fanatical claim that the FBI treated Kavanaugh with kid gloves, and it didn't look into the tips that were sent in about him enough, and they want a thorough investigation of what the FBI did and how they did it and stuff like that. I'm thinking the first part is, the Senate already received all of the info at the time, and then the FBI has come out and reiterated this. Nothing was secret, nothing was withheld. They already had everything the FBI had collected in the course of its proceedings. They didn't even need to give it to the Senate, by the way, and they label it. They were like, well, we gave it to you as a courtesy. You already have it. Why are you bitching about it now, months later? And number two, it represents it's actually good because it shows the Democrats are capable of criticizing FBI, because they've been doing like the worship of bureaucracy thing now for months, because of course there was FBI involvement in trying to gun for Trump. You had like the Steele dossier and FISA warrants and all this shadowy shit. They were in favor of that. They felt it was part of the Rebel Alliance, usurping the Death Star or something. It's pretty cringy. It's kind of pathetic. Their reasoning in the world is not quite reasonable most of the time. But now they're critical of the FBI. The Senate Intel's bitching about it. Oh, you didn't do enough. There were credible claims against Kavanaugh. You had like 4,500 tips were sent in. Well, first and foremost, not all of those tips are going to say Kavanaugh did anything wrong. Pertinent to that investigation, the tip could be, I never saw anything. The dude was an upstanding gentleman. He just happened to enjoy beer, keg parties or anything. I witnessed interaction B2 and I saw nothing wrong. He wasn't rapey or something like that. That's number one. Number two, you can have multiple tips by the same person, potentially. Number three, a lot of them could be spurious. The FBI gets tips every day about every goofy way, and most of them are bullshit. To be clear, when the FBI gets tips, and I hate to be the person who has to fucking sort through them to weed out the trolling, that doesn't necessarily mean that it actually is meaningful. The FBI looked into the Kavanaugh case, and they saw no problem. They saw nothing compelling. This is Kavanaugh Derangement Syndrome 2.0, and you'll remember the grilling that he took. Essentially, it boiled down to, yeah, we don't have any proof that you did anything wrong, but before your family and the entire nation, we're going to essentially tell high school and college age rumors about you that could have been spawned by people that simply don't like you for social, personal, or political reasons. That was really what it was about. Brett Kavanaugh touched me. Brett Kavanaugh ran trains, gang rapes and stuff in college. There was never any corroboration of any of these claims whatsoever. Not one bit of evidence, no contemporary apparent claim at the time. Well, a couple of these claimants, they weren't even allowed to speak before the Senate because their cases fell apart. Their claims against Kavanaugh were so self-evidently bullshit, and in some cases self-refuting. I mean, you wouldn't, if you're a Senate Democrat, you don't want them within 10 miles of D.C. at that point. You tell them to go home. Maybe you give him some hush money. Please, you make things difficult. We understand you don't like Kavanaugh. We don't like him either, because he's a Trump appointee. It wouldn't matter if Trump had, by the way, imagine this, if he had said, okay, Merrick Garland will be my choice, because, Obama wanted to put him in there. Fuck it. Whatever. It would be funny. They'd grill him probably, too. They'd probably look up his detailed sexual history. The FBI looked into him. They had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, which, they tend to have. They didn't find anything. Leave the fucker alone. He's already in SCOTUS. In order to get rid of him now, I believe the only methodology is he'd have to voluntarily resign. Well, I mean, if I'm Kavanaugh, I would stick it to them by simply existing. I would stay in SCOTUS and I would thumb my nose at them. I'd be laughing because they've already tried to ruin your life once. If anything, you get a SCOTUS that already tilts slightly to the right. With Kavanaugh, essentially the swing justice, by the way. And you're trying to politically alienate him as the Democratic Party. What possible reasonable purpose does this serve, politically speaking? And Biden, he's a vegetable already, but at some point he's probably going to get 25th to resign due to health issues. Kamala's going to get in there. She's going to lose. You know, and if none of the justices keels over in the next few years, that means that the up-and-coming next Republican administration, whether it's Trump, DeSantis, whoever, probably gets another couple of justices. Just to be clear, because of the age demographics of SCOTUS, the next president, the next term, whoever's in there, you'll probably see the replacement of Clarence Thomas. You'll probably see the replacement of 2 or 3 people. A lot of these people on SCOTUS are pretty old. To the point where, like, you're 65, you're like the spring chicken of the Supreme Court. Barrett and Kavanaugh, of course, aside. They're on the youngish end, although, you know, they're middle-aged as well. They're also, you know, increasingly speculated to be rhinos by hardliners, which is also very funny. SCOTUS, the FBI has everything. They saw no reason to pursue any further investigation despite this legendary barrage of tips. That's because most of them were horseshit. It was like someone from high school saying, yeah, I saw Brett Kavanaugh stick his thumb up a deer's asshole one time while drunk at a party. And he had the deer, he was holding it by the asshole, and then he shoved its head into a girl's crotch, or it's something like that. Don't you think that they receive zany tips like that on a regular basis? And horse shit they have to deal with. By the way, you should defund the FBI at this point. They've become a partisan political organization, basically. They've been meddling with, you know, the civic function of the United States. It's funny to see the Democrats actually criticizing them for the first time in a long time. That's about all. Peace out.